salam sejahtera. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Saudara Profesor Dr. Faiz Abdullah, ISIS, Profesor Nabil Mins, SETA, Timbalan Menteri, Syah, rakan-rakan yang saya muliakan. Saya ucap terima kasih dan tahniah kepada ISIS yang dapat terus meneroka bidang-bidang dan pengalaman baru, termasuk kegiatan dengan SETA, satu yayasan yang terkemuka yang saya secara peribadi kenal sejak 30 tahun yang lalu, sejak awal pembentukannya, tatkala Presiden Tayyip Erdogan memberi rangsangan. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, again congratulations to ISIS Malaysia and the SETA Foundation, who I personally has known and exhibited quite a number of associations and programs there with the support of President Tayyip Erdogan and many leaders, including Prof. Ibrahim Khalil. But this is our convening of the first ever Kuala Lumpur Ankara Dialogue. An event is one of the key outcomes from my encounter and engagement and discussions with President Tayyip Erdogan. Now, as we gather to strengthen the linkages between Malaysia and Turkey, we do so at a time when the world is once again confronted with the harsh and dismal reality, the tragedy of war in West Asia. Thousands of lives are lost, school children massacred as they seek shelter in their classrooms. Civilian infrastructure, such as bridges, are blown to smithereens, and oil and nuclear installations are bombed indiscriminately. The human and physical costs continue to mount, even as diplomatic efforts are being pursued to halt the violence and restore stability. While various governments, including Malaysia and Turkey, are working diligently to convince the belligerents to end their military operations, we must also recognize that the responsibility to advance peace does not rest with governments alone. Those within the track to community, and you, and ISIS, etc., for example, also carry a crucial responsibility where its ecosystem creates a space for honest engagements and difficult conversations that cannot always take place at the formal governmental level. Our world is molded by nations with military and economic might. Yet the survival and prosperity of nations rests on three enduring foundations: sovereignty, resource security, and defense self-reliance. And if I may add, a fourth fundamental, a robust level of bilateral and multilateral interdependence. Now today, staring us in the face is the erosion of sovereignty by the unmitigated recourse to military actions that are neither justified nor restrained. We are witnessing the disintegration of a principle that has long underpinned international stability. Nearly 40 days have passed since an unprovoked assault on Iran, launched by the Zionist regime of Israel with the support of the United States. What is called Operation Epic Fury lays bare a deeper perversion, and that is the unbridled ease with which military might is used, zero restraint, absolute disregard for human lives, no mercy and no regrets. The bard reminded us more than 5 centuries ago that the abuse of greatness is when it disjoins remorse from power. Disjoins remorse from power. And if we may add, when power is stripped of conscience, it ceases to uphold order. It breeds instability, widens divisions, and weakens the very system it claims to protect. A rules-based international order cannot be invoked selectively. It cannot protect some while denying others their legitimate rights. Its credibility rests entirely on its consistent and even-handed application, particularly in the moment or in moments of crisis. Yet they continue to unleash their reign of terror against neighbors with absolute impunity. As military offensives in Gaza and Lebanon are perpetrated daily with a vengeance. Once again, we see the utter disregard for Palestinian lives. As the Zionist regime entrenches its oppressive apartheid system across the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and its own territory. So, in the face of these grave and violent injustices, we cannot just raise our hands in woeful despair or lose our composure with hysterical outbursts. On the contrary, it is incumbent on us to remain cool-headed and steadfast in the pursuit of diplomacy for peace and stability. Now, in this regard, Turkey's approach, as advocated by my dear friend, President Tayyip Erdogan, offers an instructive example. As a non-belligerent, Turkey has chosen engagement over escalation. Ankara's recent meeting on the US-Israel-Iran war with Riyadh, Islamabad, and Cairo underscores Turkey's immediate role as a stabilizing force in the region. Malaysia stands in full solidarity with Turkey's advocacy of restraint, while we also commend the efforts of Pakistan, Oman, and Egypt, and other partners who have stepped forward to facilitate dialogue and consultation. Incidentally, we in Malaysia, with Prabowo of Indonesia and Pakistan, has issued statements to support this initiative. But diplomacy will be an exercise in futility if it is cloaked in deception and insincerity. The parties must be earnest and truly desirous of a lasting solution. The world has seen too many ceasefires that serve merely as interludes between escalations. What is required now is not the management of conflict, but its resolution. A genuine commitment to de-escalation, anchored in mutual respect, and a fervent desire for peace and stability consistent with international law. Now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this war has cast a long shadow of distrust across the region and risks fueling a new and dangerous arms race. As a true friend of both Iran and the nations of the Gulf Cooperation Council, Malaysia reiterates our principled position that it is in their collective interest to reclaim the peace of their region and unite in the face of external attacks. While we are witnessing what we are witnessing is no longer a regional disturbance. Its effects are already extending outward. And it will be felt for years to come. After decades of protracted conflict that have stunted the trajectory of societies across Afghanistan, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, Palestine, Syria, and Yemen, the consequences are no longer distant. They are beginning to reach our own shores. Indeed, entire communities in West Asia continue to endure devastation that has persisted for years. But for our region too, in particular, the effects are being felt in the economies, in every household, in our energy security, and in the daily lives of our people. Now, for too long, we assumed that the foundations of the global economy were resilient by default. That assumption has now been decisively challenged. When tensions intensify in a region as strategically vital as the Gulf, the consequences are felt far beyond the immediate theater of conflict. History reminds us that this stark clarity. The oil shocks of the 1970s were not merely episodes of energy disruption. They triggered inflation, constrained growth, and reshaped the global economic order. Yet today, the risk of more profound and pernicious. Our economies are more integrated, more digitalized, and far more dependent on uninterrupted flows than at any point in the past. The Gulf, and in particular the Straits of Hormuz, remain central to global energy security. Any sustained disruption would not simply raise prices. It would reverberate across production systems, supply chains, and the daily cost of living for hundreds of millions across both advanced and developing economies. We see the disruption to energy and in the infrastructure bringing to bear immediate humanitarian implications with wider socioeconomic consequences that could further destabilize an already fragile environment. Now, taken together, these are not isolated risks. They point to a wider systemic shock, one that could further unsettle markets, disrupt supply chains, and strain economic stability across continents. Now, for Malaysia, this means acknowledging too that we are not immune to disruptions in global energy supply. We remain firmly committed to safeguarding the well-being of our people. In the immediate term, my government has taken steps to manage exposure to volatility, balancing the need to ensure adequate supply with the imperative of mitigating pressures on the cost of living. And in the long run, we must accelerate a decisive shift in our energy strategy towards more sustainable, diversified, and cost-effective sources. It is not merely an environmental necessity. It is a strategic imperative. Now, I learned of a Turkish proverb. I'm struggling. Otherwise, my friend Erdogan said, you've been coming back and forth to Turkey, and the best and the worst of times, not a word of Turkey except tashakur. Now, the proverb, minari yaptırmayan yerden bitmiş sanir. Reminds us that he who did not help build the minaret thinks that it merely sprouted from the ground. Our partnership did not emerge by chance. It is built on sustained effort and commitment to deepen cooperation. It is a profound conviction that's grown from the foundations of mutual trust, respect, and shared values. Diplomacy must therefore extend beyond governments. It must be carried forward by our institutions, our industries, and our people so that its benefits are widely shared. Ultimately, the question before us is simple. Do we act collectively and with purpose to avert a crisis whose consequences will be felt across generations? Or do we allow short-term calculations for quick gains that would eventually lead us to long-term instability? Now, as we attempt to answer these questions, let us remind ourselves that the choices we make today will not only shape the trajectory of the conflict, but will also define the character of the global order that emerges from it. Giving peace a chance is not a mere mantra, nor can peace be handed to us on a platter. It must be built deliberately and patiently, with resolve, with courage, and with an unwavering commitment to justice and human dignity. It is not sustained by silence, nor secured by force alone, but by the quiet, persistent work of those who refuse to accept that conflict is our destiny. In the darkest moments, we are reminded that even the smallest acts of conscience can carry a weight of change. Let us therefore choose to stand on the side of justice, to speak with clarity, so that the future we leave behind is not one defined by conflict, let alone war, but one that is shaped by peace, progress, and prosperity. Tasyakur, terima kasih.